You let me down!
Oh, this game is going to be bad. I'm sure you've played some of the often proclaimed worst games of all time, whether that's Bubsy 3D, Et, or Superman 64, all games which were a product of their time. But in 2004, some of the best video games of all time were released. It was the year of Half-Life 2, Halo 2, GTA San Andreas.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6...
and Driver 3. Except that wasn't the worst game released that year. Instead, that honour goes to Hellboy Asylum Seeker for the PlayStation 1. Originally a PC game titled Hellboy Dogs of the Night, released in the year 2000 and only in Europe, the PS1 game wasn't ported until 2004 and was only released in the US as a shameless cash-in on the movie, despite the fact the game has nothing to do with the movie. Still, the game got great reviews. 20 out of 100, 9 out of 100, 12 out of 100, 5 out of 100. You have to consider that the PlayStation 2 was 3 years old by this point. Oh yeah, why bother porting the game to the PlayStation 2 when you can port it to the last generation console that no one gives a crap about anymore? Great idea! The game starts off with some old guy who looks like he's in hospital due to a severe stroke. He's telling some idiots about the end of the world or something, and of course it ends up being down to Hellboy to do something about it, because it's his game. Hellboy is basically this beefed up tomato who has this thing for this human girl called Sarah, but she's all complicated and stuff, so she's not into him, which makes him all complicated and stuff. And then all this complicated happens, meaning he has to save the world and rescue Sarah because she goes and gets herself captured like Princess Peach. Anyway, the game controls awfully with Resident Evil style tank controls, meaning you end up running into stuff all the time. You know the game is always going to be fun when the first puzzles are literally push button, unlock door, push button, unlock gate. Really innovative when you consider Resident Evil was 8 years old by this point. And then there's the combat. This is it. You basically hold down square and watch as Hellboy either politely taps him on the face or misses. He's supposed to have a powerful right hand made of stone, but in this game it's a right hand made of shite, which is as useful as dial-up internet. It takes ages to defeat literally the first enemies in the game. I've literally had to speed it up over 500%. Either they're overpowered or Hellboy has to knacker them out so much that they re-die by exhaustion. Anyway, you find Peter and he's pretty much deaded.
That's a lot of blood.
Well, how about you call for an ambulance?
Too much blood.
Right, well, as Peter is doomed, instead of trying to do something about it or sorting out a funeral, you bugger off to fight this giant bird woman boss thing.
Giant bird women. I hate them.
Don't we all? Don't we all? You have a lighter, but you can't use it and walk at the same time, which makes a lot of sense. I literally only worked out what to do in this room by luck. It's one of those games where you just move around and press the action button everywhere, hoping for the best. After fighting Nosferatu's dumb cousins, you have a puzzle where you put these 3 stones on these platforms, which I honestly believe it doesn't matter what order you put them in. Then this crappy bridge shows how incredible this game actually looks. But it does lead you to this blue smurf who tells you some shiz before hilariously flying off. My people need me! You go to an asylum where you're confronted by the one-armed nurse you saw earlier. She tries to beat you up, so you naturally punch her in the face and throw her out the window. But if beating the crap out of the physically disabled isn't enough for you, then you can go around pushing pills to the mentally ill and make them physically sick. Look at him, he just doesn't give a shit. You turn the water system on and get a map, which turns out not to be a map after you use the fireplace to reveal its secret, because of course you would know to do that. I've no idea what this means. After some other crap, you end up fighting this oversized angry frog by poking it with a stick. Then you poke this fan with a stick to get to a secret area, while these frogs have a raid. Then the map, which turned out not to be a map, tells you how to complete this puzzle. You go through a super scary passageway with the best fog graphics of all time. You know what, Silent Hill? You can't do fog. I don't care if you was released 5 years earlier. This is how you do fog. And let's be honest, Silent Hill didn't get the fog right until the HD collection. What an amazing game. Then this guy, who I honestly have no idea who he is, does something. And I have no idea where Hellboy gets sent. At best I can hope is he's been sent somewhere where he can get my bloody time back. Oh wow, because this passageway doesn't remind me of anything at all. Nope, I can't think of anything. Totally original gameplay. Well done, Hellboy Asylum Seeker. Getting stuck with what to do next is just a typical trope in this game. I pick up this shield and then keep pressing X hoping to find a way out of this room. Finally, by standing in the right position and pulling this chain, it seems to do sod all. So what you actually have to do is punch these beams, because of course you do. Then you get to the next area, which is possibly the most boring, drawn-out, monotonous puzzle I've ever encountered in any game ever. It took me years to do this, so I skipped Christmases and birthdays. Oh, and there's also a number of times which I got stuck in glitches during this bit. Anyway, once that's finally done, you're treated by something amazing which happens. Why can Hellboy not manage this drop? Leon Kennedy can jump out of a massive house and make it look all cool and shit. But Hellboy, he just falls like a bitch. Oh, and I didn't edit any of the sound effects, by the way. It's really that bad. It's almost like they just didn't bother putting them in. Dramatic pig angle! You meet this doofus kid who looks like Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder, who tells you he's starving. You give him some bread and the little bitch complains that it's stale. So you find this small pool which has something inside. So you naturally throw pig feed into it, and then you experience the greatest moment in PlayStation gaming history. Wow, and I thought I'd seen it all. So after killing a pig to find a box with a key in it, you remember the starving kid. You pick up the chicken and of course, because you're Hellboy, you just throw it the hell in the oven whilst it's alive. No messing about, and it comes out perfect somehow, and on a plate. He should have his own cookery show.
Yeah, boy.
Ah, crap. Oh.
Again, don't worry about sound effects, overrated. I mean, it was only 2004, wow, what a game. Half-Life 2? Nah. Halo 2? Nah. Shrek? Nah.
Oops, I think I broke their boiler.
No, it's not you, Hellboy, it's just the game that's broken. So of course the next step is to pick up a decapitated head and give Simple Jack his chicken. Then after fighting a few of these things, you get to a church where Hellboy gets to show off his skills. Hellboy releases his greatest hits on organ, out now on CD. Only $9.99. No, wait, we're missing a tricker. It's 666. Yes, 666, because that's funny. Next, you use the decapitated head you found to trick this dumbass into letting you into a secret area.
Ah, Brother Sanchez, come in. You don't look well.
I have no idea what this thing is and I really don't care. But it soon realises this beefed up tomato is not Brother Sanchez and so glitches himself into a giant monkey thing. As you do, because, you know, everything makes sense so far. The boss battle ends up being easier than the first two enemies at the beginning of the game. Ooh, a tea. So you run around not knowing what to do like usual, you do a stupid puzzle, and some skeleton king gives you some magical sword. But before you can experience how utterly bad it really is, you meet up with insert bad guy's name as he's trying to steal the thunder of your recently released organ album. You soon realise that not only does Hellboy have no clue how to actually hold a sword, but the sword is as useful as your stone hand, which is another way of saying it's as useful as a Sega Saturn. So you fight this thing in the greatest boss fight in human history, when all you have to do is punch him in the dick for a few minutes. For some reason it dies like a baby is crying, and then you get transported forward in time or whatever, because I honestly don't know, and by this point I just want to snap the bloody disc, if it wasn't for the fact I'm emulating it.
I follow everything.
Just stop. I'm not going to tell you what made Herman vomit on Hellboy's willy, but it ended up giving me a key. Then I'm back to pressing X on everything to get something to do something because I don't know what to do. But pressing random shit makes stuff happen eventually, and this guy manages to take Hellboy out like nothing. Wow, he's a ninja! But Hellboy doesn't fancy any of that kinky stuff and takes out the ninjas. Ooh, a tunnel. Where does this go? Ah, cool, yes. That was fun. And just what every game needs, a sewer level. And it's even better when it's essentially a maze and you have no idea where to go and it just goes on and on and on and you realise where to go by accident. Stuff happens which is just too boring to show. You lose your gun, even though you didn't know I had a gun, but it's just as useless as anything else in the game. Then you finally get to this boss fight with the sorcerer, who thinks it's funny to dab. It's really a terrible battle which just involves you running trying to punch him before he dabs again, and then disappears to another part of the room where you have to do the same thing over and over again until you eventually knock him out and leave him for dead. Just lying there. Just lying there. Hellboy decides to have some downtime by playing the organ again, then fights a metaphorical representation of your mum, which, as per usual, has all the gameplay complexity of holding down the square button. You jump into a hole to go to hell because, yeah, why wouldn't you? And then you see that Satan was too busy to appear in the game, so instead you fight Satan's cousin, Mark. You defeat Mark in the final crappy battle of the game and save Sarah. I've no idea how they got out of hell, maybe they got an Uber, and to be honest, I really don't give a crap.
Ow! I could do without the falling thing.
It's not so much the falling as the landing. You get used to it.
Oh, are you sure about that, Hellboy? Don't you remember this? Hellboy talks to her about how their dead friend is still nearby, but they're going to go and get Starbucks instead and the game ends. There was a ton of shit from the PC version of the game that was missing, and a bunch of stuff I didn't talk about, but I'm probably going to go to hell for just playing this game anyway, so who cares? Imagine opening that game up in Christmas 2004, and if you did, it probably stunted your gaming growth. So you should play something decent from that era. Shrek 2?